Up, it's your boy Roy Jones Jr. Right now you're checking out Lineal Boxing TV with Bertie. Don't miss it, the man is fantastic. He even
Steve Bird, Lineal Boxing TV, happily joined by Paul Zanon. Firstly, Paul, how are you doing?
Yeah, good mate, yeah, busy, scribbling away, attending events. Daniel Dubois against Gorman tomorrow, so I don't know if this goes live or not, but yeah, really looking forward to that. Obviously we've got White against Rivas next week. A lot of great fights on the horizon at the moment. You know, obviously everyone's eagerly anticipating the Ruiz Joshua rematch. So yeah, no, all good, mate, all good. And thank you for inviting me to be part of your podcast. Real honour.
Oh no, thanks very much for coming. If people don't know, you're a boxing writer, Boxing Monthly, boxing author.
Yeah,
done some fantastic books. Can you just explain a couple about them?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say fantastic anything. I'll just put my head down and scribble away, and that's it. I'm not a trained journalist or trained writer of any sorts. I've got the honour of writing for a few publications, Boxing Monthly, even probably the most prominent, Lineal Boxing in Boston, British Vintage, which I've got a real soft spot for, to do some fantastic clothes. You know, the guy Zen who runs it, absolute perfectionist, and he's got some good guys like Harvey Horn and Charlie Duffield endorsing the brand at the moment. And then books wise, I'm just finished the 8th at the moment, so 2 coming out very soon. One about a guy called Paul Banke, former world champion from California. If you've never seen the fight, Paul Banke against Daniel Zaragoza, watch it. One of my favourite fights of all time, which probably still is Marco Antonio Barrera against Eric Morales, #1. If you like that fight, whoever's watching this, watch Daniel Zaragoza against Paul Banke, 1 and 2 in fact, and trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. It's just mano a mano all the way through, so that's it. And the other one is Johnny Tapia, comes out in November. Some great little stories in there, absolute crackers. Everything from a forward done by Sammy Hagar, the famous guitarist, through to I even interviewed the pastor that did the funeral and everything. So yeah, Johnny Tapia, what an absolute legend. Yeah, if you're into boxing of any sorts, you got to read that. It's a short book, about 20,000 words, but wow, what a jaw dropper. Let's
quickly go on to him. I saw him once at the York Hall Bethnal Green. I couldn't really keep my eyes off him. Never as a true nickname, was it Movida Loca? My crazy life has been more actors.
Well, I interviewed Richard Maynard, who at the time was the press man for Frank Warren. And again, Richard Maynard, what an absolutely lovely man. One of the few endearing people in press and PR within boxing. And he told me a few stories about Johnny, but one of them, he said, was to this day, and bearing in mind, you know, Richard's been in the PR world of boxing for the better part of about 3 decades, he has never seen a queue that big. It went right the way around the York Hall, and a lot of people didn't have tickets. They just wanted to get a glimpse of Johnny, and that was it. And I interviewed Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. I think it was Eddie Mustafa Muhammad who was in the corner that night. It's in the book, so you can find out. But so he turned around to Johnny, he's going, work the jabs, you know, fill this guy out a little bit, you know, see what he's about. And that was it. And he said, I'm stepping down the steps, you know, a bit slow these days. I get down. He said, by the time I finally rested myself, he said, bang, he said, he's knocked him out already. He said, that was it. All this way we travelled all the way across the pond, and bang, he's done him in the first round. So Johnny being Johnny turns around to the crowd, I love you, London, I love you, London, does this, you know, customary backflip, and that was it. He was actually supposed to be fighting Prince Nassim. Contracts were getting ready to go and everything. And then Nas lost against Barrera, and that sort of skewed things a little bit. So there was also another contract which never got signed, Tapia against Pacquiao. So all these fights, I mean, you know that Johnny would have brought the heat with him wherever he went, but yeah, again, like I said, all these things in that little short publication. But for me, possibly one of the most entertaining fighters you never knew you were going to get with Johnny, apart from raw entertainment. There was never a boring Johnny Tapia fight, and if it was, there would have been a great reason why. But no, what an incredible fighter, and his wife Teresa Tapia was an absolute diamond to work with me on this book, and it was a pleasure to work with her actually.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be able to cram enough of his stories into a book, could you? It's had an awful sort of like upbringing, didn't he? His mum died, didn't she? And
yeah, I mean, it's just when you start to go into this, and you kind of, you know, 30-second whistle stop tour. Here we go to get someone's attention. His father was killed while his mother was pregnant with Johnny. Then, when he was about 7, 8 years old, his mother went to a dance. Johnny was pleading, please mum, don't go, please mum, don't go. And in the end, the only way she shut him up was giving him a Snickers bar. And throughout his entire career, before every fight, he used to have a Snickers bar. And people know that because he remembers of that night. In the middle of the night, he woke up and he saw this truck going past, and he saw his mum chained up in the truck, and started waking up the grandparents. Please, please, you know, that's my mum, you know, please, please. And they went, you know, they ended up by sort of giving them a slap and said, you know, shut up, go to sleep, and that was it. Well, the mum didn't come back in the morning. And what happened was, with a pair of blunt scissors and a screwdriver, I think she was stabbed 27 times. One of her breasts was severed so bad it was pretty much off. And she survived for 4 days. Somehow she managed to get out of the gravel pit where she'd been assaulted, and got to the hospital. And then one of the guys came along and finished her off. And that was it. But yeah, but on to the upsides of some of the stuff with Johnny. I've spoken to the likes of Abel Sanchez and various other top trainers, Freddie Roach, you name them. And they all said that he's just one of the nicest guys you could ever meet. But what was interesting was some of the people he had in his corner. Johnny was so talented, he pretty much didn't need trainers. But when I spoke to Teresa, I said to her, I believe that Johnny went through 12 different trainers during his career, which would be an incredible amount, you know. So, and she went, no, that's not true. And I went, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I said, what was it, 5? And she went, no, it was over 20. So, wow. So again, you'll read about so many anecdotes where he goes through about 3 trainers in 3 days. So we're talking top guys here. So, but you know, including the likes of Emmanuel Stewart, etc. But when I say he had some great guys in his corner, it was the likes of Mr. T, Mickey Rourke, you know, these sort of guys. And there is actually a video on YouTube with Mr. T where he's being interviewed by this guy in Albuquerque, and the guy says to him, so, Mr. You know, here I'm in Mr. T, and there's Johnny Tapia, and you've got this tiny little figure of Johnny Tapia, who was about maybe 118, 122 pound fighting weight at that point, with Teresa, you know, 5 foot somethings, and you've got Mr. T who's taken up the whole wide angle lens. And this guy says to him, so what do you know about boxing? You work in his corner. And he turns around and he literally turns into Clubber Lang. He's like, I'm not some Hollywood makeup artist. I know what I'm doing. And then you can see the guy proper swallowing, like, thank you. On to Johnny here, and that's it. You thought absolutely classic. So Mr. T and Johnny were good friends, along with a lot of those other sort of guys. So yeah, what a guy, and what a legacy he left behind him. Just a shame that the demons overtook him. He was pronounced dead on arrival 5 times that we know of. But unfortunately, the very last time he never fought back, and that was it. So yeah, someone who's going to be sewn into the history books for a long time.
What an honour to write that and just helping that.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, as close as I could ever get to meeting the guy, going through his wife, and then speaking to the other people, the warmth and the energy that came from the stories was as good as kind of being there. And yeah, an absolute honour. In all honesty, it's an honour to write any of the books I do, Ghosting, whoever. The guy Paul Banke that I was talking about before, I mean, 176 amateur fights, won I think 150 on the Olympic USA squad.
Didn't he get ill as well for a bit? Yeah,
well, it wasn't a bit, it was a long time, yeah. So he turns professional, becomes WBC super bantamweight champion of the world. Tremendous fighter, was sparring Freddie Roach when Freddie was 18 and he was only 14. Ended up becoming a sparring partner for Oscar De La Hoya, Robert Garcia, you know, Mikey's brother, etc. Problem was he was doing hard drugs all the way through his career, and that was his mistress. He just couldn't get away from it. So when he retired at the end of 1993, within weeks, he's on the street living homeless. And that's kind of like the prelude of the book. It's quite a hard hit, and like, wow. And he gets done for Grand Theft Auto in 95, and police notice the track lines on his arm and say, do you want to do a HIV test?
Yeah.
And they asked, you know, were you sharing needles? He said, yes. Long story short, full-blown AIDS.
Yeah.
So 24 years later, still here.
Wow.
And the best part is that as of the 24th of April 2014, clean, sober, you'll see Paul Banke all over Facebook. Facebook is like a lifeline to him.
Yeah.
It's now 2:23 here. I spoke to him at 11 AM UK time, which meant it was 3 AM time in California, and he was down the gym working out.
Wow.
So he gets up very early still, fighter's mentality, whatever it may be. But he's clean, sober, the whole thing, goes around talking to people, attends his AA meetings pretty much every single morning, inspirational character. In the words of Ruben Castillo, one of the quotes of the chaps is, if you're ever feeling down, call Paul Banke and he'll hit you with £100,000 of happiness. And that's it. That's the sort of guy he is, and I'm absolutely delighted I've had the chance to work with him.
What a fantastic fighter as well, though, when it all comes down to it. You're in a very privileged position. Do you feel under pressure as well to actually encapsulate what these guys have been through as well? Do you know what I mean? 'Cause it's...
Yeah, 100%. One of the things I try and pride myself is being able to make sure that you can feel the voice of that person coming off the page. So I've started off with an East Londoner with Jimmy Tibbs, so you've got to have a growling voice coming out. And then I've gone to the Yorkshire Hunter, man from Scarborough, a guy from Norwich, a guy from Manchester with Jamie Moore, Martin Murray, who's from St Helens. So one minute you're sort of going, always knocking him out with left hook, right hand. And the next thing it's like, he was a proper idiot, mate, I can tell you now, It's like, and I've got to try and think exactly like this, so it feels like spinning off, because a lot of the people from the area are going to be buying the book. But you've got to immerse yourself in there. When you're writing a line, you've got to think, is this how he would have said it? Is this actually how he did say it? So then I make sure that I run through with the client, make sure they're happy with it as well, because ultimately they get the sign off on it. So there is a pressure of that, but one thing I don't do is rush with anybody. I tell them at the beginning, it'll be as long as it will be, and it will take as long as it will take. Obviously, if they want it done in a certain time frame, which I have had some say I want it done in 4 months, and I do that. But Martin Murray's took over 3 years, and because he's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And that was it, and it turned out to be a #1 bestseller for a long time. So I can't talk highly enough about my clients. If I had to handpick a few that were special, it'd pretty much be all of them.
I'll put links to all your books as well, because you've covered a completely different range. Some very happy stories, some dreadfully sad ones, obviously. Mr. Prince, Paul Ingle. How immersed to get into those guys as well?
So with Paul Ingle, I kind of fell in love with this guy from the moment I met him.
If people don't know, Paul Ingle was seriously injured, wasn't he?
Yeah, former IBF and IBO world champion. I mean, you want to talk about boxing pedigree before we talk about his injury. Yeah. The guy had 200 fights, over 200 fights as an amateur. Incredibly, he lost his first 6, and the encouragement from his mother was, you better get back into that gym and learn some more. Then start winning some. So anyway, ended up by winning the ABAs 1991. Would have won it in 92, but when I fought in the Olympics, lost by 1 point against the eventual gold medalist. Went back the year after, won the ABAs again. Then 94 turned pro, got the whole lot: the British, the Commonwealth, the European, the proper EU, not the IBF and WBOs. Not taking anything against anyone who's won those, but the EU probably having the most weight to it. Then a few intercontinental trinkets for the hell of it, and then won the IBF against Manuel Medina. Great fighter. It was set a world record, that fight, at the time, memory serves. It was about 2,000 punches thrown in the fight.
That's right. Yeah.
And then he did the unthinkable after that, where he went to Madison Square Garden on the undercard of what was a very lame fight between Lennox Lewis against Michael Grant. It was over in like a round, 2 rounds, and that was
3 rounds. For that was.
It was absolute tripe. It really was. And whereas Ingle went in against Junior Jones. That's right. I mean, what a legend. Yeah. And, Jones was not a washed-up fighter. Yeah, it wasn't maybe peak, but he knocked Ingle down at one point, and Paul was like, hold on, what's going on here? Madison Square Garden's been knocked down. So he went back, and he ran him over and stopped him in the 11th, which was, testament to what a great fighter Paul Ingle was. Unfortunately, weight was a struggle, and towards the end, he was just absolutely drained. And a lot of people think that dehydration causes blood clots. It's not really that. Dehydration makes you more vulnerable because you're feeling like crap and you're more open to getting hit. Yeah. And when that happens, then that's it. So I became a micro expert in brains. Why I say that is because, like I said, I'm not an educated person per se, but I interviewed the brain surgeon Paul Ingle. Spent about 5 hours with him. Wow. There's a couple of interesting anecdotes there. The first one was I said, explain, when you were first there when you first met Paul, and so he took me straight to the point where he went to operate him, and he said, I could teach you how to do this operation in about 20 minutes. And I very calmly said, I seriously doubt that. So he went, no, really. He says, you remove the plate, a piece of the skull, you take that away, you wash it out with this like saline lotion. He says, remove the blood clot, which is like a piece of liver even, and then you set it back on. He says, the issue is knowing what's going on within the brain. He said, because the brain is the most complex computer on the planet. The ramifications of that particular blow, because it was a broken vein that caused the blood clot. And having watched the video, he was able to see exactly which shot.
Point? Yeah.
And he reckons in the 11th round it was a hook that did it. So yes, Paul went into unfortunately ended up with this brain injury. It kind of changed the way, like with Michael Watson, changed the way things were done with ringside care, etc. But yeah, after almost dying about 3 times, I think, on an operating table and strokes, etc., he came back and he lost his way. He totally lost his way. He blew up to about 22 stone, I think. And a good friend of his, Sonny Pollard, who his dad, the late great Steve Pollard, who passed away recently. He went and met Paul one day. And am I allowed to swear at all?
Yeah, of course, yeah, okay. Swear away. Yeah.
So Sonny meets with Paul one day, and Paul's there. He's like, 22 stone, 5'5", I think. So, and so he's obviously quite a large guy at this point. And Sonny's chatting there, and Paul's sort of teary-eyed, and he goes, "What's the matter, mate?" He said, "Can't shift this way no matter what I do, so I can't work out." He said, "because I can't do what I did before." And so Sonny said, "You know what?" He said, "I couldn't give a fuck if you're 30 stone." He said, "What is upsetting me is that you're sad. Now we've got to do something about that." So he got onto this Herbalife stuff, and Paul thinks that there was a sponsor for this Herbalife. It wasn't. Sonny was paying for it. Yeah. And Sonny's not, Rockefeller. Yeah. He didn't have loads of cash. It was an incredible gesture for him. He then went on to set up the Paul Ingle Academy. Long story short, Paul's about 13 stone.
Oh, good lad.
And he lost it. It was absolutely incredible. He gritted down. He did the discipline that took him to a world title. He started to adopt that and use it with his diet. Yeah. Although when I did go around and work with him, his mum, what an absolute angel, Carol Ingle. Oh, I can't say enough good things about her. She used to put biscuits out, and then from biscuits we ended up like, I'd get there and she went, "Oh, I've done a shepherd's pie for one." I was like, okay, so, and then you could see Paul there like salivating as he was having his like Herbalife shake, and I'm like, "Oh, this is great," and I'm shoveling it back, and he's looking at me like, I'm sure that he was halfway to throwing a left hook on me, So, but fair play, that's Mr. Ingle, So
wonderful guy. I watched it was so sad. But I watched the little doc. I think it was on Sky, and they asked him, given everything that's happened to you and where you've been, would you do it again? And he was in a second.
Absolutely.
Not even. Yeah, it's just what a fighter.
Yeah. Well, I watched some of the fights back with him.
Oh,
and and you see he's gets
Given Nazim a great fight.
I mean, when he won the British title against Colin McMillan, it's the only time Colin, I think, had been stopped, and managed to get Colin and Paul together a few years back at an event. A friend of Michael, John Murphy, that organised it, and it's great to see those two back together. Colin, one of the nicest guys on the planet, full stop, and Paul, a similar cut cloth, and see both of those guys having a little handshake and getting a picture together, whatever, was fantastic. So that was, for me, that was one of the best sort of featherweight eras until probably the last sort of 4 or 5 years the UK's had. We had about 2 decades of on and offs. And then now we sort of, with Frampton and Warrington and etc., we're kind of back in the game again now, So what an incredible guy, and nothing but love for Mr. Ingle. Yeah.
Oh, I used to love his old army combats as well.
Yeah, well, again, it was that came about as like the Hunter sort of thing. He was preparing for a Commonwealth fight. It was now, it might have been the Commonwealth or the European. And Steve Pollard said to me, "So we're going to get you out in the in the forest." And he says, "We're going to set up a little camp." And he says, "We're going to show you chopping wood and stuff, and make out you're living off the land and that." It was actually total bullshit. They weren't. They drove up there, set up this little camp, and then once the cameras from Sky had gone, they pissed off back home, and in the comfort of the radiator and everything else, So, but it was like the whole Hunter thing, just to buy into sort of how raw and aggressive he was getting, So, but no, every person I've spoken to has been. We've had laughs. There's been tears. There's been a bit of sort of soul cleansing as well. It's a liberating process talking about a lot of things. There's a lot of things there where close family hadn't heard before. I always remember Martin Murray saying to me, "My biggest fear here is, you know, he's basically his in-laws, Gemma's wife, Gemma's his wife, her family, and not knowing about what Martin had done in his previous life and that. But they embraced him and absolutely loved him, as everyone does. You know, such an endearing
Just
character.
got that way about him, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and with Jamie Moore going through the shooting with him and his angel of a wife, Colleen. In fact, it's a lovely family, his 2 kids as well. But you know, Jamie had to recount the story to me, and obviously heartbreaking at the time. It'd only been about 18 months before, and you can see him like physically, his head was going into the place where he was, and telling me about the story, blow by blow, and every single shot, and what you can remember in the phone call, and the blood coming out, and then
Post-traumatic stress and.
But let me tell you about Jamie Moore. I mean, he's doing well now. I hope he's doing really well. And I hope he's getting a lot of cash, because that man deserves it. But at the time when I was working with him, he wasn't rolling, and he'd be the first person to say that. You know, he's doing training sessions, whatever else. And I always remember we were at this Costa Coffee, and this old lady walked past, and she went, "You're Jamie Moore, aren't you?" And she said, "Oh, you know, my grandson would kill for your autograph." And so she said, "I've just got to go into the shop first and get a pound, because otherwise they're gonna. I haven't got a ticket on my car. I'm gonna get I'll get a fine." Jamie pulls out a pound. He went, "There you go, love." So she runs, you know, stumbles across to the thing, puts a pound in, comes back, and then she goes and buys her coffee, gets a bit of paper for Jamie to sign, and she pulled out the money, and you went, "It's all right, don't worry about it." And it wasn't the money; it was the gesture.
Just the gesture.
And that was it. And if Jamie had had £100, he would have given it to her. That's you know,
Just
whatever
what he
she
is.
needed. That's just the man he is. You know.
He did a bit of work recently. We'll go completely under the radar, but on the AJ Ruiz undercard, Tommy Cool's fighting at Madison Square Garden. What an opportunity! Fighting Chris Algieri, giving him an absolute fantastic fight. But he's getting caught now.
Yeah.
And he throws in the towel, and you could just see the actual disgust and the devastation. But what an amazing gesture! Because he could have let him go on, really, but it was just such a beautiful. Like, you're at Madison Square Garden, it's the last thing you ever want to do. But like, he was just actually a friend. Do you know what I mean? I've seen so many trainers go on, you give it another 3 rounds, you can maybe get back into it. But as good as a fighter will be, I think he'll be even better coach. He's really got that.
He's got a way about him where people listen to him.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? If someone comes into his gym and says, "I want to train with you," he'll give the best he can, 100%. And if they give the best they can, you're going to gel, and that's it. But if you go in there giving 10%, expecting him, you know, Jamie do miracles, he's not going to pull rabbits out of a hat. If you want that, go to Disneyland, you know. So, but in the same breath, this is somebody that when I was working with him, he was working with Ricky Boylan, Andrew Colquhoun, names that people might not have heard of, and he absolutely busted his ass to do everything he could for them. And that was at a time where he was really hobbling with his left leg. It was in a this special sort of rubber cast type thing, so he could walk, and that was it. And he wouldn't let on to anybody. I think it was taking painkillers and whatever else.
Just to get through the day, yeah.
That's it. And he would not make any fuss at all. And that's it. And what an absolute honour and a pleasure to work with those guys, like Martin as well, and you know, all of them. Absolutely, you know, it really is. I'll always have soft spots for a few of them, and you know, Ingle, Tibbs, Murray, Morsey, all the different parts of the globe, in the UK globe to an extent, shall I say, our little microcosm. Completely different stories. One world champion amongst them, but all world champions in their own rights in terms of what they've achieved in life, you know. So Jimmy, I mean, 10-year prison sentence, comes out after 5. His whole family and everyone involved got sent down for 75 years. He came out thinking, that's it, my life's over. You know, he was a good professional. He was on course for winning belts, without a doubt. And if you ask him, you know, could you have won this, that, and the other, he'd say to you straight away, well, I can't say that because it didn't happen. Yeah. He's, you know, he's just that genuine and sincere. But but I'll tell you about Jimmy Tibbs. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, I went for a bit of a bad patch because I'd had a breakup, and he was on the phone to me every week, and he was just checking I was right now. In fact, it was Martin Murray was doing the same thing, and the other guys as well. And I remember that, and you kind of think so, not because these guys are, you know, got celebrity status, whatever else, but as raw people, which is what they are at the end of the day, they're flesh and blood. Your character comes out when someone's in need, and I was at that time, and they were absolutely phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So an honour to work with them, earn their trust, and gained a friendship along the way. So yeah, is it a dream? Absolutely. What was it? Confucius, did he say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a single day in your life?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, ever since I started writing, I've never worked. Yeah, without a doubt.
You did a beautiful bit with Mark Prince as well, didn't you? What a fantastic job he's done.
Yeah. Well, again, you start to unravel stuff there, and recently I'm a Queen's Park Rangers supporter. For my sins, yeah. Merry-go-round team, more the negative spin than the positive. But but recently the QPR stadium's been called the KPF Foundation, the Kai and Prince Foundation
absolutely.
Stadium. We did the launch last year in April there, and people flooding over, travelling distances to see him. I was honoured to be at the Old Bailey when he got like the after party to an extent, presented his OBE, Dr. Mark Prince OBE. I think he's got more letters after his name than in his name now, So, he's had to go for a rough old track.
His son was stabbed to death, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was basically defending another kid outside in front of school. Yeah. Kyan was a big kid. I interviewed Joe Gallen, who was the coach at the time for QPR. Funny enough, I grew up in Acton. I used to play football with Joe, Kevin and Stephen Gallen in the park. And there I was, nearly 40 years after, sitting with Joe in a pub in Acton around the corner from where we both grew up, and him telling me about the day that he heard about when Kyan was killed, and then Joe Gallen having to do an epitaph in the church afterwards. But yeah, he was defending another kid, and this other guy pulled out a knife and stabbed him, and he went straight in the heart, and that was it. The detail that came with that story, it's in the book.
Harrowing. Yeah.
There's a lot of blood in there.
Yeah.
I've interviewed his sister, interviewed Kyan's mother, Tracy. I've interviewed uncles, aunties. You hear everything from aggression to the feeling of want to get revenge, through to tears and horrible episode to cover. But it was my responsibility to make sure that I surfaced all that detail onto the page to make people realise how serious this whole knife crime thing is. It's Mark says a great thing about knives that hopefully deter a lot of people, which is you might carry that knife thinking you're tough. You might carry that knife thinking it's for protection. And 99.9% of people are going to carry a knife never ever really wanting to use it. But you're going to get in a situation one day, if you hang out in the streets long enough, the knife's going to call you. You're going to be there. There's going to be 3 people around you. You're going to feel, I can't beat this guy, or I might take one, but if I do, the other 2 are going to beat me badly. And all of a sudden, the knife's going to be in your pocket going, over here, mate. I'm just over here. Pull me out. Use me. I'm just here. Do it. Use me. And the reality is, the second you pull that out, that fight becomes a totally different story. If you don't pull that knife out, there's probably a good chance that it's just going to end up a fist fight, and someone's going to end up with a fat nip and a black eye, and that's it. And you might even be friends afterwards. Who knows? But by not carrying the knife in the first place, the stabbing gets negated. So let's drop these damn weapons. Seriously. Let's get on the cobbles if need be. And then if you think you're that good a fighter, get in the boxing gyms. And you think you're that good, and you want to let the world know how good you really are, not just your local hood, win something big, win a title. You'll make such a big noise, the whole world will know about it. Don't just make a little noise, a little wave in the local community, thinking you're a big bad guy. Please don't do that.
And listen, it's such an awful damaging ripple effect, and it's so, what a wonderful legacy. QPR, what Loftus Road, everyone's and that named after him. So what a fantastic job he's done there. Just going on from this knife crime, I've got to thank you so much. You've come to HB Coldenley.
Been an absolute honour. Thank you, Steve. Honestly.
And it's my dream. I'd love, just going from you were saying, to create a little boxing program in schools. And people hear boxing in prison and they automatically think, no. But when you get past that as a blanket ban on any martial arts, but if you actually get to the amount of stories in boxing has saved people's lives, and when they actually go there and sort the attitude out and they realise, hang on, I'm not the best person in this gym. Do you know what I mean? Anyone can carry a knife and stab someone, but to actually get in there and...
For me, going to the prisons has been incredible. I've been lucky to go to a few now, Chelmsford, Thameside. H&P Coldingley, I've got a soft spot for it. It's my closest one geographically to where I live, and I'm going to bring some fighters next time, without a doubt. I've spoken to Glenn Catley, and he said he'd love to come down. You know, Glenn, what a warrior. I'm a good mate to Wayne Alexander as well, and I'd love to bring him down. He's referees now, but he's also a doorman.
Yeah.
So he's seen what street violence is all about. He's a close protection expert as well. So he's going to be a great person to bring in. So yeah. Without a doubt, these guys can tell stories which can inspire. And one thing that I've tried to do just with writing and reading going in there is to allow people to read and write as a form of escapism, so they can kind of transcend those walls when they're there and realise that they have got options. But also, using the words of Manuel Stewart when he used to talk to his fighters, say, if you think too long, you think wrong. So get them to stop thinking about what got them in prison, because that's doing nothing but going around their head. Like one of those motorcycles in the circus that sort of like mesmerising.
One of those escalators you go in and just spin round and round.
That's it, and you can't see it. The door doesn't seem to want to open. Giving them that option, giving them that portal where they can say, hold on a minute. So what can I do that's different? So you listen to Martin Murray, and he says, right, you come out of prison, geographically move away somewhere, surround yourself with people that love you. Do this, do this, do this. You know, let people know that you're not going to touch your drugs anymore. You're not going to touch your alcohol. Your true friends will back you, and that's it. So if that's what they, if they can do that and come out, great, and have a focus to come out to, then fantastic. So if I'm able to influence just one person going in there and chatting to people, then absolutely brilliant. Having the opportunity to come into H&P Coldingley, I thank you very much for that, and hopefully I can come back and do some more.
Well, I've just got to say, just quickly on the end of that, there was it's in your own time, you do it off your own back, and I promise you, every single one of those guys come to me personally and thank me. And some of these guys are people like, listen, anyone can end up in prison, and you deal with some bad people, but listen, anyone can end up in there. And it was so motivational. Some of them were actually so buzzing coming out of that thing. God, yeah, I love doing this. And getting people that don't speak and actually listen, you know what I mean? Everyone's got it in them. Everyone's got a bit of passion. Everyone does love something. And if you can channel it in the right way, it's just lovely to see. It was good.
No, that's why I always start off with the whole thing. Because, people, I would have thought so as well years ago. A writer's coming in. Like, oh, this is academic, you're thinking, right. But in the same breath, when you're in prison, there's maybe not that many options to pass time. And I know that within Thameside, a lot of guys got an option of 23 hours in the cell. You can do 3 hours out by coming to this thing and just listening to this guy talking. But it's one of the first things I always do. Like, you've heard me on a few occasions now. I say, who knows the difference between a verb, an adjective, a noun, etc. And you see the look on people's face thinking, we've got to listen to this shit for the next 3 hours, And when I tell them that I don't know the difference, and I still don't to this very day, you put me through one of those polygraphs, whatever, I genuinely don't know. And then I tell them that I failed GCSE English, a number of times and the rest of it. It's to do with passion. And if you're able to speak well, then you'll find a way of getting that onto paper. If you make a grammar mistake or a spelling mistake, there's little red and green lines on Microsoft Word to pick up for it. Don't worry about that. Editors will help you with everything else. But by writing down where you'd like to go, how you'd like to do it, write about your life story, you're then going to be able to sort of mould where you can go into the future. And a lot of the questions some of the guys ask are really poignant. And I think, like I said last time, when you teach, two people learn. And I've learned so much from the guys at Coldingley, I really have, and all the prisons, in fact. And it's something I intend to try and do, certainly, into the future. I've only been doing it about 1.5 years, but it's definitely part of my outlook for as long as I can do it, So.
Really appreciate it. Well, we're a little bit pressed on time. Thank you so much. I could chat to you all day. There's so much I want to... Can I do a real quick fire?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Who would be your dream book to write, past or present?
Rocky Marciano never had his autobiography done. I'd love to do that.
The old Susie Q.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. I don't think that Christy Martin has had her autobiography done, and I interviewed her 2 days ago. I'd love to do that. I know she's got a film coming out, but I'd love to do her book because she was like a pioneer for women.
Yeah.
And present day, if he'd allow me to do it and would have the patience to sit down with me, and even if it took 10 years to do so, I'd like to get in the head of Tyson Fury, because there is an abundance of intelligence and dialogue to come out of that man. And I think there's lessons to be learned for a lot of people to find out how he's done it his particular way.
They say sometimes when people are so good at something, they sort of miss something else, don't they? They have a little chink, and that might have been his depression. They said with Paul Gascoigne, he become addicted to alcohol. And Tyson Fury is just so complex because he says readily, doesn't he? He said, "There's days I just think I'll quit. I just don't want this anymore." And then he's just what he has done is just, when you look back in a few years, it will be
what he's done, and how he's done it. I mean, I was in Manchester last year when he did his comeback fight, and it looked like a hippopotamus walking through the ropes. He was 20 stone, and the guy was fighting. There was a massive fight halfway through, and him and the guy who was Safiri, whatever it was, they just stopped fighting, and the referee was even looking at the thing at one point, and then it was kind of like, "Oh right, sorry lads, yeah, let's carry on here." And it was a bit of a farcical fight, whatever else, but you start thinking to yourself, is he going to be all right here, into the future? Yeah. And then he had the other one against the Italian German in, where was it, Ireland, I think.
That's right.
And again, you're thinking he should have knocked this guy out. We're all opinionated, we'll become experts all of a sudden. And then all of a sudden it's like Deontay Wilder, and you think, whoa, wrong fight. Wow. I mean, we all know he won that fight.
Yeah.
He didn't get the decision, but he won the fight. And it goes to show that you put the stiffest opposition in front of him, and the best Tyson Fury comes out there. So can he beat Deontay Wilder when he's already beaten him? Can he beat in a rematch? I reckon yes. That's why I didn't want to take it so quick. Could he beat Anthony Joshua? I believe so. I believe he's got the tools for that as well. So yeah, but that I'd love to be able to have the opportunity to write about the first ever professional travelling, a champion from travelling stock as well. All of that history, the Fury history in there. As with the Gormans and everything else, some great bare knuckle history in there as well. So yeah, those three for me. I mean, there's a long list, but probably in that order. Those would be the way, So.
And there's so many amazing stories in boxing that haven't even been just unearthed yet, isn't there? It's like, I was watching something on YouTube, Matthew Zaid Muhammad, and his stories. Just
well, I'm doing a lot of retro stuff for Hannibal Boxing. If you sort of type in Hannibal Boxing, my name, you'll see a load of retro articles I've done with former champion. I interviewed John Conte the other week.
Yeah, what amazing light heavyweight,
And I think he fought Matthew Zaid Muhammad.
Right,
and he's been sober now, I think, since about 1981, something like that. But what a great fighter.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting listening to him and his family. I think he was, one of X number of kids and whatever else. And you think, wow, incredible. I'm talking about one of X number of kids. You've got Daniel Dubois.
Yeah.
One of 11 kids. I mean, people have read my Boxing Monthly Boxing Monthly article, know about this from ages ago. But there's a lady called Sylvia Dubois from back in the 1700s. Was a lady, she beat the shit out of her mistress. And back in them days, the way it worked was, you got smoked, you were killed, that was it, end of story. But instead, she respected her so much, she granted her freedom. Well, Sylvia Dubois, 5'10", about 200 pounds, ended up getting a reputation for being a good bare knuckle fighter, to the point where she ended up being a sparring partner for the then heavyweight champion of the world. So anyway, she was well known for having her own bar, liquor, whatever else, men trying to start fights there, always losing. She lived to, I think, 101 years old. But then, like, about, 9 generations later, you got these 11 kids. And, Caroline Dubois, currently undefeated, going to win, she's already world amateur champion, European 3 times, fighting in Tokyo Olympics. Daniel, and you've got Prince Dubois at the moment, and then you've got the youngest one who's only about 4 years old, just started boxing. What a family. There's going to be a legacy there one day,
Yeah.
So, I think we're honoured to be at current boxing era we are at the moment. It's really picked up again. Fighters seem to be wanting to fight each other because they want those tasks as opposed to just getting the money these days. There is a bit of the take the shit fights and get a big paycheck as well. But Dubois, Gorman, neither one of them needs to take that fight.
Absolutely, and it reminds me of when George Groves fought James DeGale, both relatively early in their career, and they just thought, no, listen, let's do it. Yeah. I love all that.
Both can whoever loses fight, both can come back.
100%, yeah. And they'll come back better, I think, as well, because they know where they are, and it's exciting, isn't it?
But listen, once again, I really appreciate. What's the name of the channel again?
Lineal Boxing. Lineal Boxing.
Watch Lineal Boxing, everyone. Make sure you give him a follow. Check out Stephen on Facebook as well. He's a top man. He knows his boxing and he fights as well. Light heavyweight?
Light heavy, not very well, but
no, he's a good fighter as well. So if you see him on the street, don't mess around with him. Lineal Boxing, watch it.
I'll put all your links. Thanks so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much,
Thanks
mate.
so much, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.